As a person who's building my residential home, do I also need my project manager to be registered?
Mega projects are usually, that's why you feel the need for a project manager. If a project is going for $1 million, that's over 3.6 billion for Uganda shillings. There you need the project manager. Even you, the client, you buy materials today and forget tomorrow that you bought them. But now if you're building your own house, actually if someone's doing a small project, he cannot even understand that a project manager exists.
The biggest part of construction is project management and cost control. If you tighten it too much, you will compromise quality. The biggest problem people are facing now is cost control. And in cost control, we have various things that take on. Today, we were back again with our engineer, a civil engineer, and also a project manager who is experienced. He has managed various projects, hotels, 5-star hotels, schools, hospitals. And today we want him to take us through the course of project management, because if you don't understand and really get what is meant by project management, you will compromise the quality of the project. Sometimes buildings fall because of poor project management. I want him to introduce himself. You know him, but again, he has to introduce himself.
And once again, my name is Simwe Timothy. I'm a civil engineer and one of the founders of Build Construction Consultants. We are here to share knowledge with the vast knowledge which I have accumulated through managing different projects from schools, as he said, hospitals, hotels, so that we understand more about project management and everything that is there in that package we have today. Thank you so much. Let's keep together through this journey.
Yes. Now, many of us are wondering and asking ourselves, is an engineer supposed to talk of project management?
Yeah, an engineer is supposed to talk about project management. The reasons being that every project has got a project manager based on which person a client has chosen or which person has got the expertise. Because when we are looking at project management, we are seeing at the expertise of that person who is going to lead the project. Most of the times we have architects, sometimes we have got engineers based on which type of project you are going to handle. You can imagine if an architect is the project manager of a bridge, you need more of an engineer because it is more of a structural project, it is more of analysis and everything. So projects vary, so that's why an engineer can talk about project management at even the highest level, because they can also be project managers at different levels.
Yes, I want you to make us understand who's the right person for that job of project management, because for us in our layman's language, even the owner of the project can be a project manager. Is it really applicable, or it is something that we have and something that really plays around with the quality of what is going to be delivered?
So if you see the definition of project management as itself, because when you see project management, we define it mostly like there are techniques and skills that you use to drive people in helping them to run projects in order to achieve or get yield results for that project. So there are techniques and skills. So I would think that a capable person can be a project manager, but he should be qualified, he should be skilled enough to lead other people, he should be able to understand the project, and he should be able to make sure at the end of the day, the purpose of the project has been achieved. So if you are choosing a project manager, to me, I would say you would see on the skill set of the individual who qualifies. Of course, he must be technical in managing people and leading them in order to ensure the project which is being executed meets its purpose. So that is the person I would go with if I was vetting for a good project manager. Yeah.
Wow. So those we should take those as the qualities of a project manager. What a project manager should have.
There are so many qualities of a project manager. Because now when we talk of a project manager's qualities, there are so many things we see. We see someone, he must have leadership skills. So being a leader, he must have that mindset of leading other people to purpose. He must be able to build objectives of the project. He must have to know the vision of the client. He must be a trustworthy person. A project manager must be self-driven. He should be able to work hard other than other people, self-driven. Now, those are the characteristics of a project manager. He should be technical, So those are technical skills, the speaking skills to help people know what they are supposed to do and everything, and organize the project. Because we have got different things that happen during execution of a project. So basically, there are so many skills you have to check if you are going to get the best project manager for you to have a successful project.
Yes. In case of failure of a building or a building falling, who should be blamed? Is it the project manager, the engineer, or it should be the client? What we want to know is that who is responsible for the building in case of a building?
In case a building collapses, what we usually see is what stakeholders are involved in the entire project processes. A project has got different processes. If you see on project management, one, we have got what we call the foundation. And the foundation we see on what is the vision, we see on the purpose of the project, Then from that, you go to another part of the project, and that is people. Under people, we see the stakeholders. Those are the people, end users. Then we see also the investors or the financiers, So that is another set of project management. Then after that, we have got the creation. Under the creation, we have the plan, the execution, the budget, and the benefits for the end user. So now, there are many stakeholders that are involved in any project to be successful. It starts from the visionary, who could be maybe a client, that's the foundation. Then this person hires maybe a consultancy firm or an architect. Then he does his vision. Then this project is going to be executed on ground. Then even before it is executed, then it is submitted to the local government or approving authorities. These approving authorities approve the drawings. Then you go to the creation part, which is implementation. Then these people can receive drawings which are approved. Then they are executed on ground. Then after that, we see the end user of the project, which people, because even if you do a project as a client, you don't use it yourself. Maybe the end users. So now we see the end users. So that is the whole scale of project management. Now, when a building collapses, we want to know where is the cause.
Yes.
Is it on the design part? That's the design. Is it on the implementation part? That is implementation on ground. Is the weakness from the government? Because there are buildings that collapse due to the weakness in government. It was approved, implemented based on the standards which were approved, and it failed, meaning that the government was not vigilant on what it approved. But it could be on implementation stage. Maybe the contractor did not follow the standards which were designed. Then we also see there. Then it could be on the initial stages of design. Maybe what was designed was not okay. Or the client can make a crossover. He jumps the consultants and he's responsible for the structure. You find the client is the engineer, is the architect, is everything. And he's telling the constructors, do this, and do this. So what happens if a structure collapses? They carry out a thorough investigation to know where was the cause of the entire system, from inception to execution and collapse, so that we have the right person to blame. So I cannot tell that this is the person they blame, but after the investigations, they usually know which person was in wrong. But even the authorities are usually in wrong, or the client can be in wrong, a contractor can be in wrong, based on where is the entry or what is the result that has been got from the investigations.
Wow. Many of us are scared of the contractors and project managers. We have this tendency of saying that project managers are so expensive. So let me do my project. Let, let me manage my project without a project manager. The question raises up from that point is who's supposed to establish the cost of a project? Is it the project manager or the client?
So what happens in construction, especially in a larger scope of project management, we have got different scales of projects.
Yes.
We have small projects, then we have got agile projects. These big, we call them mega projects.
Yes.
Now with the small projects, you might not necessarily need a project manager to be there. That's where even anyone can manage. But with these mega projects, always you must have a project manager. With mega projects, they are over 1 billion, So you even to execute them, you need someone who's an expert on them to help you or guide the client. Because at that time, we have got the investor who gathers the money. Then you have got the execution team which is going to implement. Then we are going to see the benefits of the project. There's a lot involved inside. So who costs the project? What usually happens is after the design process, the investor usually has a consultant who guides him or tells him about the costs. Under the consultants, they could have quantity surveyors who help in costing the entire project, and they advise the investor. Because even before you get a project manager, because by the time you get a project manager already, you are at implementation stage. So meaning that the investor or the client must be having enough finances to execute the project. So the consultant who was on the design team or the person who was responsible for designing that mega project always do cost estimates and briefs the client about how much the project would take. Then after the client has approved and sees that the finances are there, he looks for a project manager who helps in implementation of the project. Because what happens with the mega projects, you find that you as a client, it is very hard to be the one being addressed to all the issues of the project. Even if you hire contractors, you hire different teams on the ground, there's someone who should be representing you on those activities. And that's the project manager. So usually goes and talks to the contractors, he negotiates for you good deals, he does all that. So already you have the total cost of the project from the consultancy or the design team. Then after you're ready to execute, you have a project manager who helps you in execution of the project based on the budget you have, and also helping you to save on the project. So basically that's the importance of the project manager, especially on mega projects.
There is this person who's in diaspora currently right now. Now this person is asking, can my brother or my relative also be a project manager, or I should hire someone who is experienced with project management? Because you find that most of these people, at times when they give the work to their relatives, you find that what would have been done on a smaller budget, you find that they are being given a very, very big budget for something very small. And is asking, can I use my brother, though he is also trying to get something, or I should employ or hire a professional project manager?
Now, that person who's in diaspora, I would say that it varies with which type of project is he going to execute. If you are constructing a small project, maybe a residential house, you don't need a project manager. You actually need an overseer. He's not even a project manager. He's like an overseer. He's just helping you to see on your behalf. Project managers are so common on mega projects.
He's building apartments.
Like building maybe apartments, Even apartments, sometimes it could be a small project. There are those complicated projects. You are building, for example, hospital. A hospital has got out of composition. We are building a school. Now we are doing a hotel. The hotel has got a lot of complications. You are thinking of a hall, you are thinking of a swimming pool, you are thinking of a sauna, you are thinking of a gym, you are thinking of a kitchen, you are thinking of gardens. There's a lot of compositions that add up to make that project. The project is over $2 million, Now, that one is different from if I'm building a small house. With a small house, I could have an overseer. But with a mega project, you need someone who is an expert on doing such projects to be there for you as a client and always help you and guide you to ensure that you fulfill the purpose of the project. So someone who's outside there and is working might not necessarily need a project manager, but possibly an overseer who's trustworthy to ensure that he helps you execute your program or your project as the way you want it.
Now, the problem here may not be necessarily on the complexity of the project, but the issue comes in procurement of materials. You find someone gave him a quotation of, it was around 12 million, but the relative who was handling the project on ground gave him a quotation of 25 millions. How do you project managers? Can you come in and help this person, or it is up to him?
So when we're handling the search, what happens is one of the characteristics of a good project manager is faithfulness and trustworthiness. Because we usually say average the cost of paying a project manager is between 5 to 11% of the cost of the project. So implying that if you can hire someone who can act as your manager or project manager for you and you pay him well, you know what happens? These people sometimes also they don't want to pay well people who are handling their projects. But if you could pay him well, he could be trusted and also worthy. Because the goal of a project manager is to help you save. Because you're hiring someone to help you save on your project. Basically, that's what you want. So if he gets someone who can be a project manager for him and he pays him well, possibly I believe you could line out those differences in costing and helps him to do a project at a very low cost compared to any other person who wants kukuba njawulo from the project.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I can say about that.
Yes. Now, let's go back to our complex projects. The role of procurement. Who plays that role of procurement? For example, a hospital is under construction. Who does that procurement? Is it the project manager or it is another department?
So on big projects, what we usually have, we build the systems. And one of the systems that we handle is when we have a lot of materials coming to the site, we have the procurement manager. That person is usually accountable on behalf of the clients to always purchase materials and deliver them to site. So this person who is on the procurement is the person who usually, as a project manager, you could have all submissions of what is required from the site from different teams. Because you might find that you have different subcontractors. You assess the need of those materials or needs. Then after that, you submit them to the procurement, which procurement should be really trusted by the client. Then this is the person who is responsible for doing purchases and delivering those materials to the site on behalf of the client.
Now, who takes the risk of material purchase? Is it the contractor? Is it the procurement? Is it the project manager? Because at times we find that you've gotten materials, maybe they get issues along the way. How do you handle that? Who handles that? Who mitigates that risk?
So what happens is this: different sites have got different models. Private sites are different from government sites. So for private sites, what happens is who does or which person is most trusted by the client. Because the client can bring in someone and say, this is the person who will be handling the procurement of materials. Or if you have built a system and the client has given you that authority to buy materials, you could have a procurement officer. So So that's the person responsible to take the risk of purchasing all the materials and you deliver them to the site. Because there are what we call turnkey contracts, whereby the client agrees on a certain total value of the contract or the finished product and he gives you all the money. You find the contractor or the project manager, you are responsible for everything from purchasing materials, delivering them, what the client is interested in, the finished product. So with that, you find that now you have to get someone who is in procurement who will be responsible for getting all the materials and take care of them until they reach the site. You be that person, that office will be accountable for the materials. But now if the client chooses maybe to have someone he trusts, if it is a different organization of the contract, then that person will be the person responsible for materials. So the system you build in your project management system is what will matter on which person has been trusted and at what level and what type of contract you are executing. Because contracts vary based on who is the client and what are the terms that are involved.
Some of us clients are big-headed, let me say that. You find that the project manager has established what type of materials he would want on his site. But then this client comes in and is like, bino vya bei nnyo nze sijja bisobola, what, you know those kind of clients.
Yes.
Now, in case of that scenario, as a project manager who is experienced, who should or who has the power over the type of materials to be brought on site? In materials we also have the different qualities. You find cement, you were talking of same 2 is bringing same 4. When it comes to the bars, you said TMX is bringing TMT. So who is responsible for that, establishing which type of materials and which quality of materials should be brought on site?
So when we are doing project management, most of the times we want to agree with the clients and we have what we call boundaries, whereby we know the roles of each person in the project, because that is what makes a project successful. For any project to be successful, there must not be those wars or connives between the client, project manager, contractor, and an engineer. What you do, you build a clear system, knowing what standards are you following. Because everything we do in project management or execution, we have got the standards we are following. If the consultant specify this type of materials, we tell the client this is what is required. Now, we go back to the terms and conditions of a contract. Terms and conditions of a contract could specify maybe the client to provide materials. If the client is providing materials, he's supposed to provide materials that meet the standards of the design drawings or the consultant. So if he's going to bring, even if it is cement, we usually require a certificate of test from cement. Even if they are bars, we want a certificate of test. If they are maybe sand, we want exact sand that has been specified. So what we usually say, we can send someone who's qualified to go and check materials before they are procured to the site. That is one way, whereby the client possibly is the one buying materials and maybe you're providing the labor, if it is that type of contract. But if it is the type of contract also whereby the project manager or the contractor, whoever is there, is buying materials, also he should be bringing materials that meet the standards. There must be someone who should be able to check that what has been delivered is meeting the standards. Sometimes you find that also you're trusting a project manager, he does not bring the standard materials because he wants to get some njauro. So what I would say is all of us should be in a win-win situation. That's why we pay well the project managers so that we are able to have proper materials to execute the project and then make sure we follow standards which has been specified by the consultant, and the project becomes really or be able to meet the standards for which it was made for.
We've gotten our materials on site. Then we go to the terms of agreement when you're starting the project. Who establishes how long the project is going to take? Is it the client? Is it the project manager? Is it the contractor? or the consultant? Because most of us have issues and problems with contractors and project managers, whereby someone is given a deadline of, let me say, a project that, and it's like, in 6 months, I want my project done. And realistically, the project manager says, it is very impossible for us to achieve that target in a period of 6 months because of these technical reasons. But the client claims and is like, nedda njagala project yange in 6 months. That situation. Who should listen to who? Is it the client? Is it the project manager?
Now, in project management, especially these mega projects, we usually see time, then we see the costs, and we see the quality.
Yes.
So all these things have to be balanced. The time, the cost, and the quality, or the output out of the project. So what happens even before we start the project? We have different stakeholders that are involved in the project. We have got the contractor, we have got the client, and we have also seen the time zone. So when they're making a contract, there is usually, before you agree to the contract, there are terms and conditions. How long will the project take? How will the funding be? Because now you could want your project in 6 months, but are you willing to fund it based on the terms we've agreed? So usually when we have a contract, there's no collision. Things usually become problematic when people don't have contracts. They are verbal. But when you have a contract, things are clear. They tell you this is the scope of work you're supposed to do. It is supposed to be taken this. We have got defects liability time. We have got this. If there are any delays, you can ask for more time, but you must know conditions. Some of the contracts which have been on, when you cannot deliver in the right time, they usually give deductions on your contract sum as a punishment. So when we are doing a contract or you are signing a contract, those terms are the keys that are going to drive you throughout the project. If the client wants in 6 months, the question is, are you capable of delivering in 6 months? If you're not capable, you tell him and give reasons as early as possible. But basically, that's what happens when you're doing project management. We have got terms and that. So we see on the cost, we see on the time, and also we see the quality of the project.
As a project manager, I know you are experienced, you are an experienced engineer, you are an experienced project manager and a consultant. How do you ensure quality of your projects? We are seeing very many clients who want certain projects, but they are not willing to fund to your standards. In such a scenario, how do you help this client with unensured quality?
If you're going to sustain structures, we have a design life for a structure. This is usually over 50 years. At least a structure you are doing should be able to live and serve its purpose for the next 50 years. So most of the times I tell the clients, and this is the standard that has been specified. We cannot go below the standards. See, some clients you have to insist on the quality. If a client cannot follow the standards and you find that the project can bring problems to you, you rather quit or advise him to get a person who can be below the standards. But all my clients, I tell them, if this is what we have specified from design, or this is what has been approved by the government, let's follow standards. Because we have got proper operating standards based on which standard you are following. If you are using a Euro code, then there are standards which are there. For example, concrete gets its maximum at 28 days. So we have to wait for 28 days to have that maximum. The ratios are usually specified of how can I achieve class 25, class 20, class 32. So we have got standards that we follow. So most of the times I don't want to really be below standards of operation because that can cause you a problem. And I advise clients, if he cannot handle, I leave the project and maybe he can try some other people, because we have to maintain standards if you are going to keep in business for a long time. Otherwise, you have shoddy projects. Sincerely speaking, you have shown the projects.
As an experienced project manager, how should a client organize his site, or how should you organize your site, your site in case of a building, and what should be the limit of the client in the involvement of the daily works on the site?
On site organization, me I would advise let the client is free to be on his site. He's a financier. You cannot stop a client from visiting his site. So you should be able to see all the progresses. I believe that a client should be able to provide like security for his materials, because most projects fail on misuse of materials, safety of them on site. Some of them are stolen. Then he should have a good person, a good project manager or a good engineer who can help him on covering labor, so that people come at site, they have a high output, because people can come and report to site and they don't give out their 100% effort. Then he should have a certain time zone where he wants to execute the project. The longer the project, the more the cost. So if he could shorten the time of execution of the project, the better. Then he should be able to prepare finances and look for someone who is trusted. Because if you don't get a trusted person, you might spend a lot of money on a project, yet this person is supposed to be on your side to help you save. So this person should be experienced, he should be good, should have done those projects, he should be able to help you get proper sources of materials, help you in saving the project, so that in saving in materials, so that you can easily execute your project and finish. So I would say the client can be involved in all stages, much as they should not make decisions that put the contractor or the project manager to do below the standards of operation, or like telling this to change maybe the bars or what. At least they should first consult the consultant who did the design, and they first analyze, give them advice, so that they change on ground what has been approved from the consultant, so that they don't have any issues with the project. So that's what I would maybe talk to the client about his project.
For a client who doesn't have time to visit his sites, how would you help him, or what can he do?
So nowadays we have got different models of managing a project. One, you can use what we call WhatsApp management. I've seen a project whereby all the investors were on WhatsApp. Some are even in Dubai, but every day you get reports of what is taking place. That is videos and everything. So even if you are outside in Dubai, you could be seeing what is taking place.
By the way, it's true, because most people have failed to start building because they say, I will go back in December, December. They build when I'm around, So what they could literally use WhatsApp management.
They can see WhatsApp management is working effectively now. You are outside, you have a group of people, you put them in the group every day. You get those reports, you get those videos of what is taking place. You have those questions. If people deliver materials, they can calculate when you are seeing on that. Then we have come up with the cameras, which can be online 24 hours. Put them on your site. This business of really someone giving you another person is project.
By the way, I've seen it that very many projects nowadays are having cameras even before they are finished.
Yes. Put a camera on your project. Put 24 view camera, and you can watch people working. You can talk to them. You can ask someone on site, come and report to me. I have seen a client who is in Somalia and is doing his project on a camera. He sees everything taking place. Then put an overseer on ground. Put someone who will give you a different perception on your behalf. So someone who's outside, really, you can handle a project even before you come here. Because there are so many ways, there are so many tricks now that you can help, that can help you in running the project. So there are so many things, but those are some of the few things now we are using in running projects when people are not around in the country.
For those of you who are looking for quality construction materials, please check on www.akbuildug.com. The world has changed. We are digital now. So on the website, you can get materials. We deliver them to your site wherever you are, or in diaspora, or here in Uganda. We shall deliver to you. For you, if you want to ensure and make sure that your materials have reached on site, just check on www.akbuildug.com. We shall deliver to you. In case of anything or any type of material that you want, we are there to serve you. Now, we've talked of cameras, and someone was asking that can't these cameras be stolen? Cameras tebasobola kuzibba, because some people think that sometimes materials get lost on site, and it is the people who are on site who take these materials. And at times you find that this boy says, ndaweka no camera kanemesa okuisa material wange. So he comes, maybe he destroys the camera or he takes the camera. How can you mitigate that risk as a project manager?
One, if you are a project manager, there are so many things. When we're doing site organization, the first thing we see on the site is security. What's the security of your materials? Remember, you're putting a lot of costly materials, So some people put even people with guns for security purposes, Actually, when we start a site, one, you do the holding. The purpose of holding is to separate people from outside the project from accessing your project. So you have got a vicinity inside.
Eleman has not understood what you mean by holding.
Holding is creation of a temporary boundary wall using mabati. You can use mabati, you close your site off from being accessed by people outside. It is even recommended in the law, so that someone cannot easily access that. What you are trying to say is that whoever is inside, you're out, you are in my boundary. Actually, that you can qualify to be a thief. So the first thing we do when we have a site, you enclose it to ensure there is security. Then provide a security personnel. If you're doing a mega project, we even put people with guns to do that purpose. Then on top of that, as a client, especially here in Uganda, you have to provide an overseer, someone who will be responsible. If you're not around, if you are so busy, this person will be there for you. Then you can now get a contractor or a project manager to take on the entire process. So basically, that's what I believe that can help you if you are going to have security on your site. So that is something you have to work on any project if you want it to be successful.
Wow. So project management is quite different from quality control. Is it true? Now,
project management is the overall. Quality control is part of project management.
Yes.
And the execution is part of project management. Because now project management, we are seeing on techniques and skills. We are seeing on how you are going to help people to run a certain project. And one of them is maybe quality control. So it is a subset of what? Of the entire project management. Yes. That's what I can say about that.
But I believe project management and quality control, they move hand in hand. Because when you talk of project management, we are talking of the controlling of the costs. And you may find at times when you tighten too much, the quality is compromised. The quality of the project is compromised. As a project manager, what are the steps or what should be done in order to have proper project management and proper quality delivered on site?
So if you're a project manager, the main goal is to balance the investor, those are his personal desires, or the vision bearer, that is the financial of the project. Then we see the execution part, the people who are executing the project. Then we see their benefits or the beneficiaries. These are the three people who are almost in the project.
Sometimes we find that the beneficiaries, maybe people who are working on the site, they may want more from what they'll deliver.
Actually, those are initial beneficiaries during the execution process.
Yes.
But the end user, assuming, let me give you an example. You are building a hospital. Who's going to use the hospital?
A sick person.
A person is sick.
Is
the end beneficiary. Now, you might find that an investor is government. Much as the financier is the government, he will never one day use the hospital.
Yes, sure.
Then you might find that an implementer is a certain big contractor who even is not from that country. He could give some maybe Chinese firm to implement the hospital. Now, as a project manager, you have to see what are the interests of the investor, what are the interests of the contractor, and what are the interests or what are the real goals of the project to the beneficiary. Now, when you find that either the client is the one bringing out the problem with quality, or if you find out the contractor or the execution part is the one bringing out the problem of quality, you have to figure out how that project can really benefit the end user. Because statistics show that out of 100 projects, only 35% of them meet the benefits of the end user. Reason being that if we could not balance the desires of the investor and the desires of the contractor without noticing on the end user, you could lose out. Now, quality control comes in there. If you don't do quality control, the project might fail to deliver the purpose. If you put in sinks and they don't work, there's a time they built a hospital here for government and they put in sinks. They were so modern that the sick people would not open them. So they were all someone tries opening a sink carry modern. They had to replace all the sinks. So the project manager thought he has brought something unique and new on the market of our country, but the sick people who were visiting that hospital could not open the sink. They were not used to the tap
technology.
The technology.
Yeah.
So these guys had to break all the sinks.
Yeah.
So the entire hospital was to be replaced and they put the normal ones. Now they had to change the model and they put even instruction, please, if you are going to wash your hands, move it up, move it down to close. So you can see what happens. That the financier was okay with releasing the money, the contractor was okay with the innovation, the end user was still ignorant about the use.
Yes.
So we have to balance the three people in project management.
Yes. There is this person, I was talking to him of recent. He showed me a house he was building and he was like, munayi bali bazimba akayumba kange kano naye yakakolanga sumbusa. Like the front part of the house, it is smaller than, like it is the smallest, and I believe in most cases we build houses whereby the front part is maybe at least at the same size as the other part behind.
Yes.
So this guy was having curves in his building and he was like, munayi ekizibe contractor kyamulema nadduka n'okudduka. You know, he failed and he ran away. Now that person, how could you help him handle that? How could you help him correct that was done by some other project manager who failed and ran away from the project, and now they are bringing you in to come and help? How do you help people who have gotten already issues in their project management and quality of the buildings? How can you bring back the quality in an already constructed building?
Yeah, what happens is this, that when we find such clients, we go back on the table. We see what's possible and what's not possible. One, for example, if the structure has been already executed, we have to see what type of structure is it and what changes can be there. We usually do what we call, of course, the structural integrity. If you are going to have any proposed modifications, that's what the government recommends. If you do structural integrity, we are going to see how are the elements done on the project. For those elements, what? There's another one we saw for him. You got this contractor and they did the beams, and in the sitting room, the building was curving. And the guy was like, I can't sleep in this room. What can we do about it? So we had to do the integrity. We see what elements were okay. Those elements which were very okay, then we had to leave them. But those ones which are not okay, we had to change and replace them. Because there are so many methods we can use in doing that. So what happens with that client, to what we see how we can maybe sit together and see what we can modify and what we might not modify, so that he can finish his projects.
Wow. So for those of you who are having issues already on your projects and you think that they can't be corrected, I think project managers, you can always help. You can always consult from project managers and consultants. I think the right person would be a consultant.
A consultant would be better
in this scenario.
Yes.
But now, in this case, we are having one person who is a consultant, who is a project manager, who is an engineer. So, in case you're having a project that has failed, you're having issues with it, please try to seek for knowledge from people who are experienced. Don't, most of us have this tendency of wanting to correct errors that were done by engineers again by ourselves.
Yes.
We always think that we know. But I believe you always have to go to the doctor in case you're sick.
That's true.
Yes. In case you're sick, you have to always go to the doctor. So, from that point of view, we've seen very many contractors who have run away from sites. And sometimes you find that in the agreement, when the client was making an agreement with the project manager or the contractor, they had made an agreement whereby the client pays first, then these people execute. And you find that this project manager has run away with the money. How does someone handle that situation whereby the project manager has run away with the money? And this is common with mega projects. I've seen it happen whereby someone was given 500 million, he went and did something crappy, and he ran away with the money. He bought a Land Cruiser, So, how does someone prepare himself for that in case it happens, or what should someone do in case it has happened?
The best question that I would actually want clients to always know is how to avoid that.
Yeah.
Even before you reach on a stage whereby someone is stealing money from you, how could you avoid that?
Yeah.
One, before you choose any person, I have insisted and I've always tell my clients, first do proper assessment or due diligence. This contractor whom you are going to trust with your project, does he have an office? If he has the office, what is his capacity? If he has the office, you visit it, what is his capacity? Is he registered? Is he here to stay? You can see a collapsing company.
Yes.
Is he here to stay? Then you have to do due diligence. What clients has this person served? What are their recommendations? What are some of the things we usually have in the contract before you are awarded the contract? What do people who have been doing business with this contractor, or what are they doing? Or what have they talked about him? Or have you seen the project as executed? Now, you might fall in a collapsing company and your project is taken, or it is helping the company to overcome a certain debt. You should have carried out all that research. So before you give out a project, always do due diligence on that contractor. Then after, on the contract, if you're doing a contract, we usually have exit conditions. What are the terms and conditions of exit? Because if this person is registered, he has got an office, he's here to stay, you know, you have somewhere to track that person so that you don't lose a lot of money on the project. That is why you do that check to know when does this person pay taxes? Does he have other clients apart from me? Am I the first one? What was performance on his previous project? Can you visit that project? Can you talk to the client? Can you know the weaknesses of this contractor? So that you know this contractor in detail so that you don't have any issues. So you can always prevent that. Then after that, have a proper contract with timelines, with conditions that counterbalance a win-win for both a contractor and a client with a lot of checks. Then always know the conditions or what happens if there's an exit, either by you, the client. Also, some clients run away, by the way. Not only contractors run away, also clients run away.
Yes.
And also know what happens if the contractor runs away, and let it be in the laws that are governing that society so that you have a clear project that is run. That's what I would handle as a project manager.
As a project manager, how do you schedule the payment to the subcontractors? Because as a project manager, for you, your role is to, let me say, or you oversee whatever is happening on the site. How do you schedule the payment of these other subcontractors?
So in project management, there's what we call sequencing or cycles. There are activities that happen and that affect others or interact with others. So what happens is when you are doing a mega project, we have what we call a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is a layout in a layman's language of activities that are going to be executed on a certain project vis-a-vis the time of their execution. So I can always see what activities are being executed now from this time zone to this, what activities have been completed, so that it can help me in organizing and assessing different contractors so that they can easily be paid. So that's what we usually use in project management, especially on large projects. We have clear time zones, we have got different sequences, and we have got different cycles of activities that have been that are taking place that we usually follow. And we know that this contractor has finished this phase, this is the next phase that is starting. So this person can be given a certificate of completion and is paid, and we sign him off.
Okay. As a project manager, is it your role to mitigate the problems that are on the site, or it is an involvement, or you involve in the client also?
Yeah, problems that are on site, we usually mitigate them at the level of project management or as a project manager. Then those that should reach the client, they are also delivered to him so that he can sort them. You can find on site there are maybe financial problems, you know, maybe if there are safety problems and he needs to improve on the security, you could mitigate them as a project manager. But those that can go higher to the client, they can also be shared. You usually have those continuous meetings with the client, giving him updates on the project and making sure that the project is moving in the right direction. So most of the smaller or problems that on site can be handled at that level. But those that need the client to know also, he can be addressed about that.
Most of us think that if I have a project manager, my role is to just finance the project and just maybe look at the progress of the project. How is that? Whereby the client, his role is just to fund, and the project manager now is the one responsible for whatever happens on the site. That's what most people think that a project manager should do. Is it what really should be happening?
Yeah, that is one of the roles of a project manager. He could be helping the client in execution of the vision he has, but also the client remains the role of being an overseer, because he has to get involved, ensure that what he thinks is right or what he thinks was his vision is being executed by the project manager. Much as the project manager usually takes that role of execution, leading all the teams that are executing the entire project on behalf of the client. So the project manager has to balance like I've already said, the goals of the client, he
Mm.
balances the contractor or the execution team. Then again, he sees on the effects of the project on the society and also the beneficiaries of the society. So that is what the project manager usually does.
So, because we have investors who are old, these we call them senior citizens, and in most cases, some of these people, they don't want to, move a lot, that they are going to see the progress of their size and whatever, and they don't want that stress of whatever is happening on the site. And these people are looking for an easier way how they could maybe execute their projects without them, like, for them, they want to play a role of 10% on the project, and the 90% they want to give it to the project manager. Is it right? For them, they want to just fund the other party. They don't want to know much of what is happening on the site. And they want to see. For them, their major role is just to fund and just to come and see the progress of this site. Is it a good thing or it's a bad thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing. Because if you get an expert or a good project manager, he could carry the burden of your project on your behalf. Because the project manager, especially on these large projects, the mega ones, $1 million and above, he carries the entire project on behalf of the client, and his work is to ensure that the client is appreciating his vision, the client is seeing the progress, and whenever he comes, he has the proper progresses that are required and everything based on how this client is also funding the project. So if you are there and you have maybe a lot of things to do, you could hire someone to carry that burden from you. Because most clients cannot really handle, especially if they are mega projects. You need someone who is an expert in them.
So in simple terms, it depends on which type of project you are handling and in which position you are at that point, that you probably create a system. Because some of us think that the way how someone else's project is handled is the same way how mine is going to be handled. But I believe that in most cases, they are not the same scenarios.
They're not the same.
Because someone thinks that, for me, if I get a project manager, my job, I stop there. But others, sometimes I've seen project managers saying that, the funds you gave me were not enough. And the client says, now you are breaking the contract rules that we had set, the terms. And now I think there you need the involvement of the client himself to come and find out what is really happening on site. Because I've ever seen a site whereby when they are constructing, I don't know what happened really on the initial stages of the construction, but something happened whereby in the foundation, actually they were on the second floor, but in the foundation there was a well. So the whole thing was becoming wet, the foundation, and now these people needed the involvement of the client, and this person was like, according to the contract we had, my role, I have to give you this amount of money, and that's how much is needed for that project. So you die with it, fanacho. In that case, how do you come to an agreement in such a scenario? Because very many contractors are getting also problems in that way, whereby projects, it was estimated at a certain amount of money, but due to natural calamities, it is becoming more than what they had estimated. And now the client is saying, you handle that, because on our terms of agreement, we had agreed that at 300 million, that project is going to be done. So what advice do you give to such?
So what usually happens, especially with these projects for construction, you must have carried out a lot of study. Because what we are seeing in project management is time, costs, and quality. So when we are going to enter into a project, we must see what is the duration of the project. What external factors can affect the project before you sign a contract. That's why every contract must have an exit loop. How do I exit this contract? Under what conditions can I exit the contract? So we go back and you write a new proposal or a change you'd want in a contract, you give to the client for his approval, and you give him vivid reasons of why you can no longer execute the project. You find possibly maybe this outcome has come in, which has affected the movement of workers and everything. So you talk with the client, you ask for more time or period or extension, you call it an extension. So this person is also considerate about that. So what happens whereby a client and the contractor fails to agree on the execution,
They have failed to communicate.
There's failure in communication. They fail to reach on a leveled ground where each person is winning. So at that time, most of the time, there's one person who wants to win or wants to show that he has got power over the project. But usually you can always sit down and agree because they are common in projects and you can't avoid them anywhere. You could reach on the ground and you find there's a variation. We usually call that a variation in the contract sum. So you can write that, quantify it, and submit it to the client and tell him this is the variations we got. When we came here, according to the agreements we had, we didn't find that if you excavate here, you'd find maybe it used to be a toilet or a what. But due to that, there's extra work of backfilling, doing this and this. So it has become out of our scope of works. So you do that. So we give a variation cost to the client. The client also comes and verifies whether that's an extra work, and then he can consider that payment, and you agree together so that the project keeps on moving.
As an experienced project manager, how do you overcome the issue of delays in material supply, delays in finishing the project?
What I usually do, I usually have like sequences of what activities have to be done as fast as possible. Have that time lapse for each and every activity. So I make sure that materials are delivered in time from the client. If I have a given task that I want to do, for example, I want to do finishing, we know that the finishing will take maybe 2 weeks from this date to this date. So I program a week before. All the materials that are required by the team of finishing must be available on ground. Then all the team that is supposed to do finishing must be set, ready to go. So we control those time blocks to ensure that each activity has been done in its complete cycle. In the project management, we call them cycles. So that cycle is done, then you have another cycle and another cycle of that. So that's how I usually manage that.
I think that can also be used by someone, some other person, maybe a client who's having his own project.
Yes.
Now, how do you set those cycles, or how do you set those targets?
What you do what we call buffer times. This is whereby you have a defined time, you identify and set an activity that is going to be finished. Then you quantify the size of the activity, know how many people are required to execute that activity. If it is finishing, how many people are required? Then prepare all the finances ready for that activity. Then when you leave that team to execute that activity, you ensure that they hit it hard and you give them that timeline. So even a client can really adopt that and use it in his
projects. Wow. But some of us, we don't have too much knowledge of construction. We don't know, because at one point I had one engineer assessing, and he had the technique that he was using to assess how much cement they use to construct, how much cement they use a day to construct, and which coverage do they make in a day. what is that technique? Because I know you are very experienced and you have a technique that you literally do use.
So there are so many techniques that we can use to cover the work. But what happens with those techniques, they vary based on the input or output of a worker.
The workers, yes.
So what happens is when I come on a site, based on the workers I have, provided I know them now that these are the workers that I'm going to run with, I can run an experiment on the site. And I say, if I have this team of this person and this person, give them whatever they want, and how many bags can they build a day, and how many bricks have they used that day. Then I run an experiment over an entire week per day. Then after that, after the end of the week, I create an average of all their output. Because that one is not specific. There's no standard for measuring human output. But I can measure if this worker is given all the cement, given all this with a porter, this is what he can do on day 1. This is what he did on day 2. This is what he did on day 3. Then I can run an experiment for over a week. Then I get an average. Then I know an average output of this worker at his maximum. Then I can use that to tell how much or how this person be productive over the project. I can use that as a measure. So I can use that. So even if I wanted to know how many cement can I use or how many bags can I use for these square meters, I carry out an experiment on that project. Because conditions are different. The bricks are different. The sand is different. The conditions that day are different. You are somewhere where it is rainy, maybe somewhere it is not. So you have to have different factors to carry out that experiment. So that's what I would do as maybe an engineer of the project or a project manager.
I think someone can also use that.
Exactly.
Someone can also
you
borrow
can use
that.
an experiment.
Yes.
Engineers, we are a bit sharp. I can use an experiment to know what is taking place. Like I can come here and I know how much cement was used on this room. I carry out an experiment and I back calculate what is the class of what that I've achieved. Then I know what was the ratio then I calculate back. Then I see the time the structure has spent. Then I can get to know the quantity of sand which is here. Then I can calculate as an engineer.
Yes, for someone who wants to buy a house or someone who wants to buy a building, when you talk of project management, is it only at the level of construction or also at the level of procurement for those who are in the business of real estate? And these people want to procure or buy buildings, do they also need a project manager?
Those who want to buy finished buildings, they would need a consultant, especially a person very good on integrities. Because an integrity is a report you do to assess the adequacy, the structure adequacy of the structure. You want to know whether this structure is sound, whether it can meet its purpose. So if you could get that person, usually if he's a structural engineer and he has got knowledge about the lab, he can help you more than a project manager. Because there you can easily tell whether what you're going to invest in is worth your money. A consultant is good at integrity, can tell you the cost of the house.
Now, most of us are confused the role of a project manager and a consultant. That's why we always think that a project manager is a consultant, because when it comes to prices of materials, we always ask these project managers at times. They let us know, or they keep us in check of what are the prices of materials in the market. And we always think that these people, they are the ones who know better or who know more about these finished buildings.
The difference between a project manager and a consultant, I can simplify it. The consultant is the head of the project manager. The project manager is on the part of execution. The consultant is the head of the design. The consultant has got the knowledge of what is being done. The project manager has got the techniques of helping people, of leading people to execute what has been designed by the consultant. That's what I'm saying. If you are buying a house, you need a consultant. Why? He has got the knowledge of how houses are designed and what is involved in them, not the project manager. Why? The project manager, for him, is usually part of the execution, but the other one has got the knowledge. Now, you could have knowledge of consultancy and project management. I've been on site whereby they've hired you as a project manager because of your skills of leading people and helping in execution of the project. But I've been on sites where I've been hired as a consultant because of my knowledge on understanding how structures operate. So you can be one person, but based on different projects that you are on and the entry point you have entered, you find me here, I'm a project manager, but here you find me, I'm a consultant.
But I think the best project manager should be a consultant at the same time.
If you get one, but sometimes you find you have got a project manager who's just good at that. A consultant who's good at that. Because project management is more of leadership. Now consultants is more of knowledge. Now you could find a consultant who's not good at leading people. You know consultants. It's like a consultant doctor. You don't ask him anything, he gives you conclusions like he doesn't care. Yet when you go to his assistant or a nurse, he can explain to you, you know, my eye is having this issue, this is what the cause and everything. But these ones, because they have got that knowledge, they just have that, they are high. They know why things are done. So they give you, this is what is supposed to be executed.
As a project manager, how do you help a client to save? Because it's a very big question that these people are having, that how do you help me save? Because now, why do I need a project manager?
One, if you're a good project manager, actually one of the skills you must have is material science. How do materials operate? What are their qualities?
Now,
what are their sources?
What do you mean by material science?
Material science is understanding how construction materials operate. Their source and their properties. So just knowing that, you can help the client save a lot of money. You know, if you know how these materials that you are using on site operate, you can advise the client. For example, I can tell you, you could tell these people who are working that if you're using maybe sand, if you use the rare sand, which we get from Masaka, it is so good that you don't need to mix it with plaster sand. For it itself can operate independently in casting and everything. Or you can tell the client, if you mix maybe lake sand, the yellow one, and plaster, you could come up with a mixture of two snow tracks and you save somewhere. So you can analyze the two and tell the client, this is, if you use this and this one can make you sand. I mean, it can make you save. Then too, you should be able to help the client in getting value for money because you're a leader. Now that's leadership skills. Make sure people who come to site deliver. They should deliver 120% when you have even paid them 80% as a project manager.
Sure.
So that the output on labor is excessive and work can progress. Then you help the client in the quality control, the one you are talking about. Most people don't mind about quality control.
True.
But the project manager should be ensuring that this project that is being executed meets standards of operation post-construction. The end user. Then you should mitigate issues that come with the development of a project. Every project that is developed, like mega projects, they come up with issues. You start a hotel, it has to have water. Water has to leave the site. In a few years after the hotel is complete, you are in court. Why? Overflow from where your hotel. A project manager should have noticed that and sees what's the impact of the project that you are executing on the society. Because there are studies we usually make as you are executing the project. The project manager should help the client that his project really reaches or meets the standards of the beneficiary.
Mm.
If you are doing a project and the end user does not use it, the issue comes from the project manager you chose, to the client. Meaning that the vision did not meet the standards of the end user. So you have to ensure that the beneficiary of the project really has got what he is supposed to get. That's what we usually control. So there are many laws and advantages when you have a clear and organized project manager on any mega project that you're executing that benefits the client.
Talking of the end user, there was a scenario whereby there was this project manager who was doing a project for a certain organization. It was a bid project. So on bidding, chinti chidogo here, there in the system. So there was always a delay in the release of funds. And in most cases, what happened was that whenever the funds were released, you could find if he asked for maybe 100%, he could receive 75. And the 25 would go in the various offices here and there, chintu chidogo, that kind of life. So what advice would you give to such a project manager, and how can he overcome that?
If you are bidding for projects, you have to know the terms and people who are involved. And we usually say and advise, you should know the interests of different stakeholders that you might meet. Now, I usually have my statement. It does not make meaning for me to go to a project to make a loss. I'd rather leave it. Because now leaving it actually is far better, because you remain with your peace, you remain operating normally, other than going to a project and you find that you either underbid or you find that people are taking money, are taking free money who are so many, and you end up collapsing your company. You have seen many companies collapse because these people are yearning to have work, they enter maybe certain contract, you find that even the money that is raised is not according to the terms, people are taking the money. There are so many corruption cases involved in Africa. But if you find that the project is that caliber, you don't go into it. I'd rather leave it out, because now you are going to make losses till you want to do. Now what happens, some people, they maintain those projects and they do below the value, and the end product is not actually meeting the beneficiary. The final user is out of scale, and they later look for those companies, and those companies have usually collapse because now the standards are so low you can't execute. But me, I don't do.
You can't do it. You just leave it to that.
Leave it out, because now you be below the standards and your company can collapse from that. And so many have collapsed. Some people are in courts up now because of that. I've seen loads which collapse even before they're being commenced.
Used, yes.
Because of that. So you have to be specific, and you see terms of conditions, you see stakeholders involved. Then if you see the conditions are not clear, don't sign the contract, don't enter into those type of works.
What are the best terms of operation?
There are those that benefit the project based on the visionary, the financier, the executor, and the beneficiary. Those terms that make sure everyone wins, they are the best. So they are different from each and every project.
Wow. So because some of us, when you talk of the terms and conditions of the project, we think that maybe we should have standard terms for each and every project.
The government has got organizations. We have PPDA. It has got terms of execution of any contract. So if you are going to do like any project with the government, they say you must be registered with PPDA, meaning that you know how contracts are executed with the government. It's one of the requisites. So you see those terms and operation conditions for that country. Then you study them and see how the projects are executed. Then you follow them. So we have got those ones. But what they do, they extract from those ones and they suit the purpose of the project. Because the contract for a hospital, for a school, for a private consultancy firm cannot be the same. They usually vary. But at least they should be following the guidelines of the government.
As a person who's building my residential home, do I also need my project manager to be registered or to be under PPDA?
You don't need. These conditions of project management usually come in when the projects are mega. That's why for small projects, they even don't know that the project manager exists.
But at the times you find someone is building his home and it's a mansion, a project that is big enough, a mansion that is over, like is sitting on over an acre,
It is still small. It has small stakeholders involved.
And its complexity.
It's not. Mega projects are usually, that's why you feel the need for a project manager. If a project is going for $1 million, that's over 3.6 billion for Uganda shillings. There you need the project manager. Even you, the client, you buy materials today and forget tomorrow that you bought them. You need someone who will help you out.
Oh.
But now if you're building your own house, actually if someone's doing a small project, you cannot even understand that a project manager exists.
So you don't really need a project manager for a small
projects. They're rare. Everyone becomes a project manager. We actually call them overseers.
You just need an overseer.
Wow. Someone who will look after or who will represent you on that project.
On ground. Yeah, so for whoever is maybe in the diaspora and he may need this person, for you don't need a professional project manager.
Not necessarily.
But maybe you may need a company.
You might need a company if you're interested in it. Because when you are looking for a company, you are looking at stability and you want to secure your finances if you're constructing something like that. Even a company, by the way, you can have a company which is collapsing. You have to look for a clean company.
A stable one. How do you know that the company is stable?
You have to carry out research on it. You see the past clients. What client has he worked with for the last month? Then what client has he worked with him for the past few years? Then you need the bank statement to see how he has been operating. Sometimes they ask for that because some companies you find they have issues with URA. And when you bank with the money, he cannot withdraw. We had that issue with one of the companies we started. Had a client who banked the money and URA closed all his accounts. He couldn't pick 30 million and it was gone. So you have to avoid companies that have issues with the taxation. So they must be green. Even you can ask a company to give you a tax clearance certificate so that you are sure that the company you're dealing with is in good terms with the government so that you don't have any issues.
And I think that one gives you clarity and assurance of the company.
Exactly.
Yes. So anyway, for those of you who are having small projects, I think you better opt for companies. And you ended. This goes to people who are in the diaspora, who are very far from where their projects are being executed.
Yes.
The best option would be a company, a construction company. But to ensure that you're having the right construction company, you need to first do a background checkup of this company. It must be a registered company, first of all. It must be in good terms with the government in terms of tax.
Yes.
I think that's it.
It must have an office.
An office. I think that is
the
obvious.
Location.
I think that's obvious because when
some companies, people have got companies in their briefcase.
Briefcase company.
Yes, the only place you see him is online. They are advertising on TikTok and everywhere. The issue comes when you ask, where do you?
Your offices.
That's the issue. He has got good work, but he's online. But at least that location is an assurance that if this person goes, you have where to get started from.
But I think also the other thing with offices, it's not something of pride of akweraga, but it shows how serious this person is.
Yeah.
And it shows the position of this person. Because at times you may give your contract to someone who's trying out life also. Someone who can't afford an office cannot do a project of 100 million.
Can.
I believe.
He might do it, But now you as a client, you want to safeguard your investment. You see, all non-governmental organizations, when they're going to give you a contract, they send agents to go and verify your office. They want to know where you sit, so that this is where they will meet you in case there is any issue. So what you are doing is due diligence. You don't want someone to lose money because you didn't do due diligence.
You didn't do a proper checkup.
You go and do a checkup, see their offices, where they are located. Some companies ask for tenant agreement. Are you here for 1 year or 2 years or 10 years? So that they are sure of the future.
I think that's also a sign of seriousness of this company.
That's true.
And what they can offer. Because there are some projects that a person who's having a briefcase company can't do.
That's
for sure.
That's true.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's it for today. It has been a very long talk. Please, if you've not yet subscribed, please subscribe today. And more hot things are coming. You've not yet gotten to understand construction. You are looking for the right source of knowledge about construction, project management, business, and inspiration. Please follow today. Follow now. Follow. Press that follow button. Okay. So that has been us today. Thank you for watching. And in case you're looking for construction materials, don't forget www.akbuildug.com. Thank you.